Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Three Stacks in this thing, baby. Representing my squad always. So today what I have for you is an update that has been long promised. People asked for it when I did the very first volcanic deck profile on my channel, which was not too long ago. It was I think right before I moved into my new place, and that one that I did was very budget friendly. In fact, it was a little too budget, and I did that on purpose because a lot of people have just been asking, hey bro, can you just show us some budget decks, some cheap fun options. And I think that this deck is really good, just depending on how the meta is. If you're in a meta where it's like a lot of Burning Abyss, and like for example, there's a format where like Shadalls, Yang Zings, and BAs were very popular. A deck like this couldn't really thrive because they have a lot of graveyard effects and a lot of floaters. But if you're in a format where boards are vulnerable to board wipes, this deck is really good at that. So it does four things really very well. It nukes boards. It has a lot of board wipes. It also does burn damage, which is really important, and it's actually really good. It also is really good at just poking. Nuke, poke, burn is amazing. And the fourth is its resource management game is really strong. It's able to generate a lot of card economy, and it kind of just has what you call a gradual progression tempo, meaning it can start slow, but it gets faster and faster, and it has a lot of draw power through its archetype based cards, which is really good. You can play other cards to increase the ceiling of the deck. You can play cards that boost its abilities to nuke boards, but I felt that where the deck was already strong, I didn't want to really refine that. I wanted to fix some of the flaws where the deck was lacking and where it was weak. So let's hop into the build. I do hope that you guys are going to enjoy this, so let's get started to the main deck. So starting off, the first monster that I play a lot of pairs of 3-ofs in this deck. First off, we play the Barrier Statue of the Inferno. Pretty much floodgates out every meta deck currently right now. You got Thunder Dragons coming around the corner. You've got Golki still being the best deck. You got Trick Stars. You got Sky Strikers. I mean, if they're able to just normal summon Ace and go into Kagari, that's fine. All they're going to have is Kagari after that. That's just it. And then you can just pop the Kagari. You can always nuke their field whenever you want to, and they can't bring the Ray out. So just overall, like, as far as where the meta decks go, even like rogue decks, there's not very many good fire decks. That's why I feel that as far as the barrier statues go, this one and the wind barrier statue are like the strongest ones, because there's not very many decks that like are predominantly that attribute. And even if there's an archetype that's like fire, it's like gonna be Infernoids, and that's pretty rogue. You're not gonna see that very much. So all in all, I just think that this card makes the volcanic deck a lot more competitive. Just having the ability to floodgate your opponent out of basically special summoning. It's nearly the equivalent to Pseudo Christia or Vanity's Lock, because you think of it, Golkis don't play fire, so basically it just means they can't special summon. They have to waste their battle phase to get over this, but you have a lot of cards that can prevent them from even getting there. And then next up, the most important monster as far as your resource game goes. This is one of the best ways to maintain your resources and keep all your plays on par with one another. You don't ever want an unbalancing kind of thing. You want equilibrium. You want every card to pay for itself. To me, that's equilibrium, when every card that I play pays for itself in one way, shape, or form, so that I don't neg, that I can either plus or bare minimum I want to break even, but I never want to neg. And this card indeed is a plus. What it does is it shuffles 4 pyro monsters from your graveyard into your deck and allows you to draw 2 cards. It's not once per turn, and it uses its effect even targeting itself, so that way you never actually run out of resources, like, ever. As long as you can resolve this card and continue to put itself back, you'll never deck out, and 2, you'll never actually burn out of your entire deck, which is all pyro monsters. So it's a really strong card in general. It's a 17 body as well. Then we play 3 volcanic rockets. So this is going to start off with the volcanic monsters. I only play 9, and really there's only 9 good ones that you want to play. And Rocket is pretty much your Stratos. What it does is on summon, normal or special or flip, it doesn't matter, just on summon. It adds a Blaze Accelerator card from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, and it's a 1900 beater. So it's a pretty strong card. And this deck, what happens to the game state when you're playing against Volcanics is it becomes pretty darn simple. So cards like this, with the statistics that they have and being able to net that kind of a +1 and generate that kind of advantage, are really powerful, and they can be basically the make or break play that can shift the tide of the game in your favor. Just that simple. Because when you're keeping the field cleared, you're floodgating your opponent, you're continuing to destroy all monsters they control, and you drop a card like this, you know, it's just all uphill for you. It's an uphill battle for your opponent to fight. And then next up is the MVP of the Volcanic archetype. The reason why you can never play Pot of Desires in this deck is triple scatter shot. The Volcanics are pretty old, so I'm going to explain them. I'm only going to read off 9 of their cards. The rest is self-explanatory. But scatter shot is its effect is when and not if, which is really important. It's a win effect, so it can miss timing, but naturally it's the last thing to happen anyways. When this card is sent to the graveyard, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. But if it inflicts 500 damage, which is really important for end of time rules. But if it was sent to the graveyard because of a Blaze Accelerator card, you can also additionally send 2 copies of Volcanic Scattershot from your hand or your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So this is a Raigeki that you can trigger on your opponent's turn, and each Scattershot that gets sent to the graveyard will trigger its additional effect to burn for 500. So resolving one Scattershot becomes inflict 1500 damage to your opponent and destroy all monsters they control. This is a good way. In fact, this is one of the best ways that you can interrupt combos. I mean, Thunder Dragons are getting this monster that pops 1 cards. This card is breaking an entire board before you get the chance to build it. You can stop your opponent midway if their tempo is getting too fast, and you want to hit them before they start collating services and stuff like that. So if they're mid-combo for Gokis, you can just nuke their board, burn them for 15, and it's one of the best ways to just stop their turn. Sometimes that can not only stop their turn, but it can just mean you win the duel because you'll be able to just attack for a lot of damage next turn. And this card is insane because it's not once per turn, and in addition to that, it's retarded because you can recycle all 3 copies of it back into your deck with your Firestorm guards and resolve the card multiple times in the progression of 1 duel, which makes it very, very powerful. And it's one of the I guess you can say cruz of the deck's archetype. And then also it's an Achilles heel at the same time because without Blaze Accelerator, this card is absolutely dead in your hand. You know, so it can suck when you draw these because without Accelerator, it's a blank card. It doesn't really do anything. But with Blaze Accelerator, this card is just amazing, which is why cards like Rocket and Foolish Burial Goods are really, really important. And then the final, well, not the final, but the final 3 of Volcanic monster we play is Shell. Shell has a very simple effect. You can pay 500 life points while this card's in your grave, add another copy of itself from the deck to your hand. This is ammunition. That's all Shell is. That's what it's going to be for the most part. It's just going to be ammunition. Because your Blaze Accelerator, to get any of its effects off, minus the grave effect, it has to discard a Volcanic monster from your hand to the graveyard for cost. So having Shell and pitching it to trigger the effect of Accelerator and then paying 500 and adding another Shell just give you ammunition to continue to cycle through your deck. And it's really, really good for its deck thinning capabilities. And just kind of having a guaranteed target for your Blaze Accelerator is really important as well. So those are your 9 Volcanics. I do play 1 tech Volcanic. I do still play Doomfire. Doomfire seemed to be power crept, but I actually think that the card still has potential. You guys know how I am. I see potential in cards that a lot of people think are bad. But I'll read to you guys what Doomfire does because he actually if people knew what this card did, I think more Volcanic players would actually play this card. So in order to summon him, you have to send a Tri-Blaze Accelerator you control to the grave. Their new trap card, which is not really new, but it's the newest card they got, is Tri-Blaze Accelerator at all times. You send it to the grave to summon him. And then this card, while he's on the field, your opponent cannot attack any other monsters besides him. So you have a soft lock with him in the barrier statue. Why? Because naturally your opponent just normal summons and tries to attack over the barrier statue. But when you have Doomfire on the field, they can't attack into your barrier statue. So it just keeps your lock, which is really good. It's just a soft lock. It's nothing, you know, formidable or absolutely broken. But also, if this card ever kills a monster by battle, whether the monster attacked or you attacked, he destroys all monsters your opponent controls. And then he inflicts 500 damage for every monster that was destroyed, which is pretty broken. So he's a 3k beater, so it's not like it's hard for him to kill a monster by battle. So what you can do is just summon this guy when you're playing Trick Stars or Sky Strikers or, you know, Gokis, anything like that. As long as you're able to kill something by battle, if their board can be destroyed, he's going to destroy all their monsters, and he's going to inflict 500 for each monster that was destroyed. So this card is another way to board wipe, and it's really strong. It's just a tempo card because this deck doesn't really have beaters, so being able to drop a card like this can just win you the game ultimately. And finally, just for the hand traps, I only played 2 Ash Blossoms. I felt that 3 was just a little bit too excessive for this deck because this deck makes Doolittle Chimeras a lot. And Doolittle Chimera's best application is just to add Ash Blossom from the grave to the hand. And you can pop your own Doolittle if you really wanted to. So just the 2 Ash, because once you see 1 Ash Blossom, you can actually just continue to add it from your grave to your hand just endlessly. So you don't actually ever need to see the 2nd or the 3rd, which is why ultimately I just decided to play 2. But you can play 3. If you're playing a deck, I'm never going to be the one to tell you to play your deck a certain way. Play it however you want to play. Just use this as, I guess, as a blueprint for what you want to build. Or, you know, if you want a net deck, I'm totally fine with that. Now for our spells, we have triple Foolish Burial Goods. This card actually is just a Raigeki. If you guys saw my budget build, I played 3 Lightning Vortexes in addition to all the board wipes that I had. Because I just really like Lightning Vortex a lot. But just consider this Foolish Burial Goods as like a Lightning Vortex or Raigeki. Because it dumps your trap. Your trap banishes itself from grave, sends a Scatter Shot. Scatter Shot will then inflict 1500, nuke the board. So Foolish Burial Goods is insane going 2nd, and it's not very strong going 1st because you can't really do anything that same turn. But if you open with it going 1st, it kind of guarantees that you can prevent your opponent from killing your Berry statue, and also that you have an interruption. Like, this is just, it's a Raigeki whenever you're ready, because the trap can banish itself during either player's turn and send that Scatter Shot. So if you open with Foolish Burial Goods going 1st, it gives you a layer of disruption to your opponent's plays, which is really strong. You can time it right. You can do whatever you want. So whenever you're comfortable with resolving the trap, you can do so. You don't have to do it preemptively. So yeah, Foolish Burial Goods is really strong. You have to play 3 of it, in my opinion. And then we have 3 Ties of the Brethren, one of the best starting cards for this deck. This deck is way better going 2nd than it is going 1st. And because it was so strong going 2nd, that's the reason why I decided to play the Berry Statue and the Ties and other cards in my main deck. Because I didn't want the deck to be so Glass Cannon that it would be like a Hand Trap Invoked archetype where it's like it's so weak going 1st but it's so good going 2nd. You know what I mean? Like I said, I want equilibrium. I want balance. I want flexibility. I want to be able to go 1st whether I choose to or go 2nd whether I don't choose to, you know? So Ties is a really good starting play. Paying 2,000 doesn't matter because you can do a lot of burn damage to your opponent. So the increments, they're never going to surmount to be more than what you can inflict to your opponent. And then we have a really good card for this deck, Shared Ride. Because I do not play Pot of Desires, I need another way to +1. Firestorm Guards is great. You know, Volcanic Rocket is great as well. But card economy is really important for this deck. And you just want to be able to keep your resources on par with your opponents. And Shared Ride does that very well because if your opponent decides to take the ride, you're riding with them, except they're paying for the Uber and you don't even have to pay the taxes. No shipping, no handling, it's free. But if they don't want to take the ride, this just becomes a trap, which I like it a lot. And, you know, this deck is very, very reactive. It even has proactive aspects, proactive being that it has floodgates, which just stop your opponent from doing stuff. But then it also has a reactive playstyle, being that it can respond to a lot of different things. So overall, the deck is stronger than what it looks like on pen and paper. And believe me, on pen and paper, the deck looks really strong. It's ironic that, you know, not too many people play Volcanics, but I understand. I mean, the deck has its weaknesses. And then for more draw power, we play 2 Magic Planners. I play a lot of continuous traps, and one of them in particular I really want in the grave. So Magic Planner is a really strong card. And when you have excessive amounts of your floodgates, for example, if you have Goals in a Rivalry already up, spoiler alert, the deck's all fire and pyro, so Goals in a Rivalry are perfect in this deck. But if you draw an extra, you can Magical Planner one of them, set the other, and activate it again to keep the lock. And then I still play the Dank Hole. You know, Dank Hole's pretty strong. I sold my Raigeki, so, you know, that's why it's not in there. But I definitely, even playing the 3 Foolish Burial Goods, I'd still play the Dark Hole and Raigeki. More board wipes never hurt. The only thing I feel like I wouldn't do is play Torrential Tribute. And while it's great to be greedy and have more board wipes, Torrential Tribute hurts you because your field presence matters. You know, your monsters can't really protect themselves, and it's really important to keep them on the field because if you don't have monsters, you can't really attack. And this deck doesn't have, like, Grave Recovery, being that you can reborn your cards. I don't play reborns or anything like that. So, you know, like, torrentialing your board just isn't good. So cards like Dark Hole and Raigeki can be good supplements for that. And you kind of have a torrential in the form of your Foolish Burial Goods and your Reload, which we're starting with as the first traps. So the Blaze Accelerator Reload is just awesome. You can discard a Volcanic card from your hand to the grave to draw one, which is really good. It's not hard once returned. So, you know, if you have multiples, you can just do that. But its best effect is not the drawing, it's the graveyard effect. And if this card's in your grave, even the same exact turn it was sent, you can banish it, so you don't have to wait. It's not like that kind of clause. You can banish it, send one Volcanic from your deck to your grave. That seems very simple. It doesn't seem powerful, but you send Scattershot with that. And this is a Blaze Accelerator card. So, you know, put two and two together. If this card's in your grave, you have a Torrential Tribute or Raigeki whenever you're ready. Because this is during either player's turn. So you can chain this to cards. You can force cards to miss timing. You can make this a very, very reactive card. So this is one of the best cards in your deck. You absolutely need to play 3. Main reason why you don't play Pot of Desires is because if you banish one of your scatter shots, you can no longer resolve it at all. And even if you want to play the, oh, I'll get it out my deck first, you can only get scatter shot out of your deck during your opponent's turn. So yeah, your draw power has to come from this and Magic Planner and Shared Rides and, you know, other stuff like that. And then we have triple infinite impermanence. Yeah, it counts kind of like a hand trap, but really I play it as a trap. You know, I really just prefer to set it in 2-for-1 versus just 1-for-1 playing it from hand. So it has very low marginal value when you play it from hand, but when you set it as an actual trap, which it is, you know, you get a lot more benefit and a lot more value out of the card. So I like to set my impermanences. You know, cards like the Mech Knights make infinite impermanence a lot better because they have to put spells in their same column as their monsters. So if you impermanence, for example, a Mech Knight play, you stop the Mech Knight and whatever spell or trap that they set under there for that whole turn, which so permanence is pretty good when you set it. Then we have triple Solemn Strike. You want to be reactive sometimes. Being proactive is fine, but being reactive and proactive is just amazing. And then we play triple Rivalry of the Warlords and 3 Goals in Matches to help your deck going second even more. Because if a board cannot be destroyed by card effects, quote, quote, Cerberus, you know, Cerberus, I hate that card because this deck loves to destroy things. It loves destroying boards. You can just flip one of these. Or you can also just impermanence the Cerberus if you can play through Trigate, which is pretty easy for this deck. This deck has so many cards that your opponent doesn't want to resolve. So you can just impermanence the Cerberus and, you know, then Foolish Burial Goods, dump this, nuke their entire Extra Link board, and, you know, you just won. So yeah, that's all the traps. If you notice, I play all the traps at 3, and I don't play any one-of traps because these are all extremely important. And I would much prefer to draw 1 or 2 of each of them every turn, at least one of them. But it would really be nice to draw a combination of 2 with different names. Because if I draw Strike plus anything is good, and Permanence plus anything is good, Accelerated Reload plus any of these is good, Rivalry or Goes In plus another one of these traps is amazing. All my traps work really good together is the long story short that I'm getting at. Now for our extra deck. Triple Doolittle Chimera. It's the main card that I go into. I'm always under my own barrier statue. And this deck doesn't really need the extra deck, but I like going into Doolittle for the firepower and the ability to add my Ash Blossoms back, add my Rockets back, just for the grind game in general. Doolittle's pretty strong. So yeah, I play triplets of it. And then other cards that I really go into, Cerberus, Phoenix, yeah, you can go into it under the barrier statue, but I just rarely make these. Akashic is an option. You have Underclock, Topologic, Unicorn, we have Skull Dread, because after you resolve your ties, next turn you can just normal, and you can make your Skull Dread depending on whether or not you have your barrier statue. Then we have Link Karibo, we have Evil Storm, Exciton Knight, another way to nuke boards, nuke Poke Burn, and then the other cards in my extra deck would probably be Winter Cherries targets, but I literally just I didn't want to play anything that I just know I'm not going to make. I mean, these cards I actually make, especially Link Karibo, it's really good, because you get your Shell Engrave. So you get a +1, you get Link Karibo, and you still get that same shell back to your hand, so you stay at 5 cards. And Link Karibo is really good because it protects you from getting your barrier statue attack. So I go into this. I do make this a lot. I prefer to not have barrier statues, so I can make this and then special another barrier statue for my hand, give it a little boost, get that draw, fix my hand, and as long as I can protect this every turn, I get to extend my plays, summoning 2 monsters instead of 1, so it just makes it easier to OTK. Unicorn is really important because you destroy a lot, but this card doesn't destroy, so you know it helps. Back row heavy decks, this deck really sucks against back row, and then you know these are just really good to go into a lot of times, and the Nightmares are kind of staples, but the absolute MVP is Doolittle. you know, got to play through it. But thank you guys so much for watching my volcanic deck profile. It's very in-depth, as I always do. You know, that's the way I am. That's the kind of YouTuber I am. I'm an in-depth kind of guy. I like to give my reasonings. I don't want you to be left with any questions. So I hope that I give you all the answers. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Definitely stay tuned for future content. I love you guys. You have a beautiful day. Be safe. Peace.